Well, everyone, we are finally back in action after a little hiatus. Tatas and tea. And we actually have some exciting news to share.
I'm pregnant.
Woo! Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is the second child.
Second baby.
Do you know what you're having?
Yes, we're having a girl. We actually were able to pick the gender this time because we did IVF with this baby.
Oh, so you can pick with IVF.
Yes, I guess not everyone technically, but some people have to pay like $5,000 to pick the gender. Like I know that for sure. Like people have done that, but like with RMA, like we were able to pick because we had to have the genetic testing done on the embryos. So it's like part of that.
Do they tell you like how many of each?
Yep, they
Okay.
told us everything, like every step of the way. It's like it's so different because the first baby we did IUI. It's definitely more simple than IVF overall, but every single person's different. So in order for me to even do IUI, I had to have surgery to have like polyps removed before that. So like it was just like and so much monitoring and I think medications. Then you're able to finally like try. So like they just put the sperm like in your uterus and that's it.
I know nothing about pregnancy and fertilization or anything. So how is that different from IVF?
So IVF was way more intense for me personally. There were so many medications and injections that I literally wanted to quit like multiple times. Like me and Christina almost got divorced so many times because we fought every night when we were doing the injections. I didn't want her to do it. I was scared. I hated it. It hurt. I mean, it was not fun and I hate needles. Like I have like a horrible fear of needles.
Is it like a regular needle or like do you have to like put it in the syringe or is it preloaded? Like how does that?
So every medication was different. One I had to like mix myself with like the powders. Then one was like a pen. The other one was preloaded already, like in a syringe. And I didn't like the sound of that one. So I had to wear headphones.
Wait, what do you mean you didn't like the
So
sound?
like there was like a rubber stopper in it and it was glass. And like when Christina like pushed it in, like the noise of that, like I just wanted to die. I could not. So I literally put music blasting in headphones because I just couldn't deal with it.
Did she always inject you?
Yeah.
You didn't do it yourself?
I could never do it myself.
Really?
Yeah. Like we fought, should I lay down? Should I stand up? Should I lay down? Should I stand up? Then I'm like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do it. And this was all just to have like the egg retrieval done.
That's just to get the egg.
Yeah, just for the egg retrieval. So I was going to quit. Like, I was like, I don't know. I can't do it. And then most of the time you have to do progesterone shots in your butt also. And I said, I can't do the ones in my stomach. Like I am not doing the ones in my butt. I told my doctor, I'm like, I'm not doing it. So like, and they're like, no, you could do vaginal suppositories instead. I mean, it might not be successful, but it might. I'm like, well, I'm trying it. And I had to do it 4 times a day for 10 weeks.
That's wild.
Instead of doing shots. So for me, it was okay. That's all to have the egg retrieval. Then you have to have surgery to have the egg retrieval done.
Do they put you under for that?
Yeah. I was terrified of the IV. I hate IVs. So IVF was totally different. Having the transfer done was exactly the same pretty much as IUI, except they put the embryo in you.
Okay.
That's it.
Interesting.
So in that sense, it was the same, but to get to that point,
right,
it was totally different.
And then I'm sure like even the process of, because you know you're 2 women having a baby, so you have to find sperm and pick sperm and what's that? How does that whole process work?
That was the hardest part.
Really? Okay.
That was definitely the hardest part of everything because it's like such a commitment that you're making. It's like a lifelong commitment. Like, so it wasn't something that you could just be like, oh, yeah, that person. No, like it's like, do your genetics match? How's the family like history? Like there's so many things that you have to like. If you're CMV negative, like I was CMV negative, so then the donor had to be CMV negative. So it's just a virus, and if you're negative, they want you to pick a donor that's negative because then the baby could be affected. Like could be deaf, like other issues too. So they want to like lessen those chances. So when you filter that into any of the like sperm banks, there's like nothing.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, oh my God. Like we looked for months and months and months. I felt like I was on a dating site because you're just scrolling.
Not swiping?
No. So, but I was like, we were doing it all day, every day, constantly. We were paying for 3 different sperm bank, like, because you could see more information if you pay. I'm like, of course we have to see everything.
Right.
So it took forever to pick. And the way that we picked, actually, we really liked this one donor. Like, he was like our top one. And Christina and I, we were like, oh, you know, is this the one? How do we know? Like, our doctor was like, buy all the vials out. So I'm like, that's like a lot of money, like, to go and make that decision. Like, so we had to be super sure. And I was sitting outside in the backyard, and I was like on the app again. And I started from scratch. I was just scrolling. I did my filters, scrolling, and a white flower fell on the donor. Like our donor. Like I wasn't on his profile. I was just scrolling.
Right.
And I'm like, that's definitely my grandmother, like telling me this is it. So I'm like, this is it, Christina. Like, this has to be the donor. And I didn't even look at the donor's interests because that was the least of my worries. I didn't care what they liked. And after I'm like, this is it, I looked at every single aspect, like, of things that didn't matter. Like, what, you know, what's your favorite band? His favorite band was Fleetwood Mac. So I'm like, yep, this is definitely the donor.
Yeah. I mean, that's your favorite. So
Absolutely. So
there you go.
I'm like, this is definitely it. Like, everything matches. Everything is like what we've been looking for. Like, it had like, so we bought all the vials.
And how many vials?
We bought 16.
I mean, I guess IUI and IVF are different. So how does that work with how many vials you use? Or
So IUI, they use 2 vials per try.
okay.
So the chances for IUI, though, are way lower.
Okay.
So it's like 25% chance.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's why I'm like, that's 8 chances
Right.
to have a whole family.
Right.
Like, if you want more than one, it could be, you know what I mean? It's like so stressful to think about. So IVF, they used 1 vial, like, for this, like, to freeze my embryos. But like, if I wanted to, I could have had another egg retrieval to have more embryos in the bank if I want it.
Okay.
Because it depends. Like, how many tries do you?
So it's like 1 vial per egg retrieval.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Mhm.
Okay. So you've gone through 3.
3.
And you have
13
13
left.
How many embryos do you have left over?
2, I think.
So technically, you could use
Yeah,
those
there's
2, and then you can get multiple embryos from 1 vial, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can have like 800 children.
Right. But like,
I mean, not actually.
I
but a
would
lot.
rather have more sperm than to not have enough, because I've known people like going through the same process, but they only bought like a couple of vials, like very few. And obviously it doesn't work the first time every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you might go through your vials to have 1 baby. Then if you want another one, then you run into the problem. You might not be able to buy any more from that donor. Like, it's very hard to do that. So then you might have to pick another one,
Right.
which is fine. But like, for me, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
But everyone's different.
So what happens if you don't use them?
So you have to send from the sperm bank to your to the fertility doctor. You could send however many you want at a time. So we sent 6.
Okay.
Because you have to pay it's like $400 for shipping.
Okay.
If it's 1 vial, if it's 25, whatever, it's the same price. But once you take it out of the sperm bank, you can never like sell it back. We could sell some of them back. We could just keep them in storage.
So you have 10 in the sperm bank,
and
then 6 or
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah, at the doctor. So the ones at the doctors, we really can't do anything probably
Right.
with.
So they just chill at the doctor until
We just pay for storage.
Yeah. Do they expire
No, I don't think so.
forever?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think the craziest thing, I wonder how this works, is like, if it doesn't expire, right? Theoretically, like, if someone donated sperm, like, right now, and then in 50 years it wasn't used, like, no one picked it up, there could be like someone who donated sperm like 50 years ago who's like
Right.
child is now being born into the or who's dead.
Right.
Isn't that
That
weird?
is really weird.
I wonder
Yeah.
like if that's a thing.
But
If
like
they just
I could die and like I have my embryos frozen and like they could still, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
That's crazy.
Like,
Christina can have your
right?
baby.
Science is so wild. Like
That's
the whole
crazy.
process, I can't even explain it. Like it's so involved and like yeah, everything was so time specific, like every injection. And Christine and I were fighting. She's standing there for hours holding the syringe. And I'm like, she's like, your time's running out. Your time's running out. And I'm like, that's not going to make me want to do it. And then, like, I would go over, like, the time. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, that's it. Like, it's not going to work. I'm like, I'm done.
Did you just not do it?
I
Or
told my, like, nurse and doctor, I'm like, no, I did do it eventually, but, like, hours later. And I told them, I'm like, look, I took the shot at, like, 11:30 p.m. because, like, we started at 8 and I couldn't do it. And they're like, you should be fine. Because, like,
Yeah.
then they, like, obviously test your blood, like, literally every day to every other day. And everyone has different experiences. Some people only use, like, for IUI, one vial. Like, I know people who have used just one vial for a try. Maybe they didn't have enough, or
yeah.
maybe every doctor doesn't do it. It's because it was, like, they did back-to-back days to make sure, like, my chances were, like, the highest that they could be. But I know people didn't use to. So, like, my doctor, like, my plan was to use two.
Right. Because you'd
So.
rather get it done, you know.
And then with IVF, they also offered acupuncture, like laser acupuncture. And I never even had acupuncture done before, ever. Because, again, I hate needles. So this was laser. And they're like, no, like, this doesn't hurt. Like, this is not there's no needles. They're like, it will increase your chances about 7%. And IVF is about 67% chance.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, anything that could help my chances, like I did do the acupuncture
Okay.
before. It's like before the transfer and right after, like
Okay.
10 minutes before and like 10 minutes after. So I don't know, but I was like, if I don't get it done, I'll never sleep at night. And like, what if it doesn't take?
Right.
So
Wow.
I ended up doing that.
What a journey.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Yeah. The hardest part though really was picking a donor, because that's something that you cannot change. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's something that's like in the DNA, like forever.
Right.
Like, so that was, to me, that's like the biggest commitment.
Mm-hmm.
That was extremely hard. And then it was harder for me to think about, because I overthink everything. I'm like, well, we bought 16 vials. That's 8 tries for 2 kids, possibly, if we want 2 kids.
Right.
And what if it doesn't take?
Then you
What
gotta start
if?
over.
Then we go through all those vials, and now what? We have nothing. If we can't buy more from them, then we have to go through this whole process again to pick another donor when we already picked the donor. And
Right.
like, it was that whole entire process. So like, to me, like, overthinking it, I was like giving myself like such bad like anxiety about it. And I'm like, I really pray it doesn't take that many tries. Like, you don't know. Like, I've never tried to get pregnant in my life. Like, what if I had a problem? If I was straight and just slept with whoever and got pregnant, you don't think about any of this.
No.
But now I think about it all the time, because I'm like, well, all the straight people I know, most likely, if they're not going through fertility stuff, they've never had gotten genetic tests done. How many people could have like genetic disorders or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, you legit never know. And it's like, it's so crazy to me. And like, it was so hard to pick a donor based off of genetics and like family health history and stuff. Like, those things are so important. And people just randomly, have kids
Yeah.
and don't think of it. And I never thought about it until this process. And I'm like, it's wild. Like,
Yeah.
science is wild, but like, also, like, you just don't think of those things.
No. Yeah, even growing up and stuff, you don't, I mean, regardless of if you're straight or not, I feel like there's always this idea, if you're not going to do it the way straight people do it, or if you have to go through IVF or IUI, you think of all of that stuff like, okay, I have to go through these extra steps, but all of the nuance to it of like the genetic testing and and you know you have to pick a donor, but you don't think, oh, I have to pick a donor that matches these genetics or that I could have. It's just
Yeah.
so
And
detailed.
with two girls, like, well, if the two girls both want to possibly get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
like Christina definitely didn't, but like I was like, are you sure? Because like when you pick the donor, it has to be based off of both of our genetics with the donor. So that throws another factor in.
Right.
But she like really didn't want to, which is fine. But I'm like, you have to be sure, like this is something like you can't change your mind on because she didn't want to have genetic testing done.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, whatever, it's up to you. I would have had it anyway just to see, but like it's better off not to
Right.
for my sake. It's like it throws so many different things. Like, I don't know. It's not just like, oh, there's sperm available, let's buy it. No, it's like IUI art and this and that. And there's like, I'm telling you, the amount of different types of vials that you could buy. Like, if you buy the wrong one, you might not be able to use it.
That's
like
crazy.
The way that they prepare it or whatever. And they're like, no, you have to buy. I can't even remember what the hell we bought. What's it called? ICI? It was something like that. And they said you could use it. It's like the highest count of sperm, like the best like quality or whatever. And you could use it for IUI or IVF. Because you don't know if you're ever going to do, like I didn't know if I was ever going to do IVF, but you have to like take that into consideration. And then that has to be available for that person.
That's interesting.
It was so, I'm telling you, that was the most stressful part of the whole thing. And then obviously the price.
Yeah, because I just thought it was
Yeah.
just like sperm. Like you just,
Me
and that's
too.
it.
But like the different things that are available, I was like, what in the world?
That's wild.
Yeah, like it's not even, it's very difficult.
It sounds stressful.
Yeah.
But you did it. You're
Yeah,
here.
we're
You
here.
made it.
We did it.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And now you have all that sperm banked
Yes, definitely.
for the future, just in case.
Yep. I wanted
Yeah.
to overplan.
Yeah.
You never
Clearly.
know.
Well, it's better to be prepared because you don't, like you said, you don't want to run out.
Right.
I
I mean, yeah, it's like some people been trying for months or years, and some insurances don't cover IVF unless you have like 6 unsuccessful what's it called? IUIs.
really? That's expensive.
6.
though,
So
too.
okay, let's say you do 6 IUIs. That's times 2 because they use 2 vials every time. That's 12 vials right there out of 16 that we
Right.
had. So like, and then you don't know if IVF, like, or if you have to keep doing IUI or if IVF, like you're running low, and that's only for one kid. Even the amount we got, which we bought them all out, like it still stressed me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, we should have more.
Well, hopefully you don't need more.
I know,
so.
but if anyone's like a planner, like overthinker planner or whatever, like me, you'd feel the same way because
Yeah.
it's a stressful process. You have to like plan the rest of your life pretty much when you're buying this because it's like, do we want 1 kid? Do we want 2? Do we want maybe 3? Like, what do we want? And we have to decide so early on before even trying.
That's crazy.
So like that stressed me out. Like it's extra stress that like I feel like other couples, like maybe straight people, don't have to worry about type of thing. Like where it's like we had to plan our whole future when we bought the sperm years ago.
Right.
So it's a huge commitment.
Do you have a name picked out? Like kind of?
Maybe. I would say probably, but
Okay.
it's not like definite.
Okay.
I mean, probably because I literally look at names every day. I'm like, I hate all of them.
Really?
Yeah, like even before like Cameron, we didn't know if he was a boy or girl. We had a list for girls and boys, and like every girl name I hated on the list. So I'm like, I really think it's going to be a girl just because we don't have a name. But it wasn't. It was a boy. But I think we were going to name the girl Cameron anyway, but like switch the spelling a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm like, I like Cameron for either.
Yeah.
So we never had a girl name picked out really other than Cameron.
Yeah.
Girls' names, girls' everything is so much harder. Like the room, like picking colors. I'm like, I don't really like pink, but like...
See, back in the day,
I know you love pink.
I love pink, but back in the day when I thought I wanted kids, I used to have a list of baby names
Really?
in my phone. Yeah.
I must be the only person ever that has never like dreamt of their wedding day or like had kids' names picked out. Like I know like a lot of people I know, they're like, oh my God, like I've had
Yeah.
this name, like Kat, I've had this name picked out forever. Like if I ever have a girl, and I'm like, that is not me at all.
I used to have a
Yeah.
whole list. Most of them were girl names, actually. I had a really
Really?
hard time with boy names.
Let me see the list.
I deleted it,
Oh
actually.
man.
I was basically like, one day I was like, I'm never having kids. Like, I don't need this list. And I deleted it. And I also, didn't really like any of them. Like, my leading boy name was Landon because I was obsessed with A Walk to Remember. And I really liked
Oh,
that
that's
name.
from that. Oh yeah, that movie.
And so I was like, oh, I love that name. But then, and this happened with a lot of the names, I met this guy that I was hooking up with in law school who had a son whose name was Landon.
Oh no, so it ruined it.
And I was like, well, I
Nope.
can't use that name
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, that's the problem with me. Like, I'm a teacher, and literally you see all different types of names, but like, you see all of them. So it's like, I don't want to name a kid, like my kid, because like you associate that name
Right.
with that person, good or bad. Like, I don't want the same name as somebody. Like, I don't know. It's just like weird. So for me with Cameron, it was so hard, but I never had like a student that had that name.
Oh, so that worked. Yeah.
Right. Or like whatever. Like it was different. Like I always want something different. And I liked Ellie, like Ellie or whatever. A million people name their kid that. It's like so popular. I'm like, I don't want a popular name like that. I want
Yeah.
something different.
I do like, I know you wouldn't, but because you have a friend, but like, I do like the name Stevie for a girl.
I do like Stevie,
Yeah.
but like, yeah.
You can't. So,
Christina wouldn't let that.
no.
But yeah, like we have a friend that we call that. So it would
Yeah.
that would be weird.
Yeah, I'm excited to find out, when the time comes what the name is. Because I can't even
know.
imagine how hard.
It is hard, and like people want to know, like,
Yeah.
but it's like I don't want to say anything.
No.
Yet. Like I'm not 100% sure. I understand people probably want to buy things with the name on it. Like that's what happened last time.
Yeah,
Like
but what if you change your mind too?
that's it, because I'm not 100% sure. Like
Right. Well, and also, someone I know actually had a baby within the last year, and she picked out a name for the baby, and she really liked it. And then all these people were like, I hate that name. Don't use that name. So she changed the name, and she went with something different. So it's been almost a year since she's had the baby. And I saw that she posted in this group I'm in that she hates the baby's name and she wished she would have kept her original idea, and she let so many people talk her out of it. And she was like, I kind of want to
Wow.
change my baby's name. And like, I don't know, because it's been a year, and like, I'm afraid of what people will think of me if I change her name. And everyone in the Facebook group was basically like, she's not old enough to know her name yet.
right.
She's never going to know the difference. Also, if you tell her the story, it makes for like a fun fact about yourself. Like, oh,
Right.
for a year I was named
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
And people are like, who cares? If it's bothering you that much,
Then change
just change
yeah.
it. Like, who cares what other people think? Like, you let the thoughts of other people sway you in the first place.
Right. That's also like like I don't want people to be like, oh, I hate that name, and then
Right.
it's like you second guess yourself,
Yeah.
like because obviously not that like oh whatever people say matters, but like it does get to you,
Yeah.
like you it gets in your head, and you're like, oh maybe it is bad, or maybe I should do something different, or but it's like it's up to us,
Right.
like, to me and Christina, and whatever we decide. And Christina loves the name. So one night, like last month maybe, I was rocking him at like 3:30 a.m. and like a name popped in my head randomly. And that's the name that we really like, both of us. But I'm like, I don't know. Like I feel like I haven't looked at enough names, but then I'll go on and look at all the names like on, like Google it, whatever. And I'm like, I hate all of these. Like I don't want something generic. I don't want something like crazy. Like
Right.
so I'm like, we keep going back to that name. And I'm like, maybe it popped in my head for a reason. Like, I never even heard of the name or, like, know anyone with it. Or
So how did it pop into your head?
I was delusional and half asleep.
Is it like a completely made up name?
No, it's like
It's like
it's
a
a
name?
legit name.
Oh, okay.
But, like, maybe, like, I don't know. I really don't know. But I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh.
Part of the reason I made my baby name list is because I didn't like generic names like Amanda or like things you hear all the time. I liked things that were like a little bit unique, but not so unique as to be like weird.
What the heck? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like, when on like the TV, if I like see some random person's name, even for like a boy, like I've been adding to the boys list because I didn't know if we were having a boy or girl before, and I'm like, oh, I like that guy. Like I have a bunch of boys' names that I like if we were gonna have a boy, and like definite. I'm like, yeah, I love these names. Like I wrote them down, like they're different. And I like for girls, I just don't ever see any, like personally, I don't see anything that I'm like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like you try to look on like street signs and like everywhere, like on TV, like on shows, on whatever. And
I
I'm
would
like,
never think to check a street sign.
yeah,
But
like I'm like, I don't know.
do you know anyone with the name that like you're thinking of or no?
Nope.
So there you go. It's
No
perfect.
one.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You did it. So hopefully our listeners have learned some things. And if anyone listening has, you know, any questions or
Like
stories, you could always write in on social media. We also have an email, tatasnt@gmail.com. And we're always looking for guests too.
Yeah,
so if anyone
definitely.
wants to come on and share a story about literally anything, let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, follow on the social media, Tatas and Tea Pod. And I guess we'll get you in another 2 weeks.
Listen up, fans, we're Tatas and Tea, where we turn our traumas into comedy. But we're here for some fun to retell our life tales, from hilarious dates to epic fails. You want some advice, just ask away, but we'll share our opinions either way. No problems too big, no questions too small. With Tatas and Tea, we'll cover it all.